What's going on, fellas?
What's going on?
What's up?
All right, so my name is Lloyd Knight, and I am the principal of Thomas Carr Howe Community High School, and I'm so excited for us to begin our first podcast ever here with adults. I don't know if we have a name for it right now. I guess we can call it 4 Black Educators for now. I mean, that works for me. And we're going to definitely be having a really awesome discussion about a return to black schools. We're here at the awesome, amazing Thomas Carr Howe Community High School, where an article was written about our school by Eric Weddle and discussing like all the different challenges and the turnaround of our school. But we're not going to talk about that today. Today, I have 4 intelligent, amazing educators who are here to talk about a return to black schools, also an idea of returning to community schools and what that means. So a little bit about that first. I'm going to be presenting at the ASU GSV conference in the next couple of months. And in the meantime, I'm going to do some research, but I thought a great thing to do would be to start with a podcast series. So we're going to have a 4-part podcast series in which these 4 intelligent brothers are going to come to the table and have great discussions around this topic. We're also going to bring students in here for week 2. We'll also have staff members in here beyond us in week 3, and then we'll probably wrap it up after that. But like I said, my name is Lloyd Knight. I'm the principal of Thomas Carr Howe Community High School. I'm going to kick it to my frat brother, Mr. Tyrelle Collins. Tell them about yourself a little bit. How long you been in education? How do you know me? How do you know all the people at this table? And, just how do you feel about education in general? A little introduction about yourself.
Got you. Once again, my name is Tyrelle Collins. I am frat brother Lloyd Knight of the greatest fraternity in the world, Omega Psi Phi.
Omega Psi Phi.
So I've been in education over 16 years. I'm currently a math teacher here with the middle school, 7th and 8th grade. I've been at various high schools. I've been in public high school. I've been in private high schools. You name it. So I've kind of had the privilege of my young 16 years in education, having the experience of all different levels.
Awesome. I also have Deputy Black here as well. He has an extensive knowledge of our school and also education in general. As you can tell, he is a man of the law. We won't hold that against him today. No, I'm joking. But that's my guy, 100%, 100 grand. I consider him the OG. Tell him a little bit about yourself there, Deputy Black.
Appreciate it, Mr. Knight. My name is James Black, currently the managing SRO for Charter Schools USA, Madonna, Manual, and TC Howe. We have a staff of 3 guys that handles the day-to-day SRO's duties. I'm currently assigned to Thomas Carr Howe. We have a really interesting program here at Thomas Carr Howe. I work hand-in-hand with the administrative staff, the facilities, and the day-to-day with the student body. Back to a little background, 23 years in law enforcement, 17 years spent as alternative education and behavioral education as a resort as it relates to schools and charter school situations. I love being here at TC Howe. It gives me a lot of opportunities to express myself and show some of my flexibility. Again, Mr. Knight, appreciate it.
All right. Everyone at this table is in a Greek fraternity except for Brother Black, but he's definitely in the fraternal order of police. We appreciate him protecting us on a daily basis here at our school.
School of Hard Knocks, sir.
School of Hard Knocks. See, that's where we went. School of Hard Knocks. But I also have Brother Goff here. He is definitely a great contributor to our school, and he and I a year ago had a dream of having some type of podcast here at the school. So this is a very exciting day for us. Brother Goff, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, man, Jerome Goff here. I graduated from Kentucky State University, a part of the...
Thoroughbreds?
Oh, yeah, a part of the, oldest Black Divine Nine fraternity, Alpha Phi Alpha, 191906. All right. Black and gold. I've been in education for 5 years. And for me, it's been a challenge, but a great challenge. And the thing about TC Howe that I love and what you do, Mr. Knight, is allow me the creative freedom to work with these kids and expand their horizons with different ideas. So that's always appreciated, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, that is a good point. Like that's what I forgot to mention too. Yeah, Knight, you do a good job of allowing teachers the freedom to do what is going to work. And I think we can, as we dive in, I'm going to talk more about that, but I think that's a key component when we talk about these schools.
Yes, definitely. Having people who have knowledge of the culture is a huge aspect of what a successful school makes, and I think it's an underrated aspect that many people don't know about. And we're going to get into the community schools aspect, but one important question I'd like to ask each of you, and we'll go in reverse order this time, and I think I'll probably go last, and I'd like to hear you fellas just discuss, like, what does it mean to be a black man in education? So many times, and I'll give you some background knowledge. Through my research in preparation for the ASU GSV conference, it came to my knowledge that about 2% of teachers in the United States are African American males, pre-K through 12th grade. And in many ways, I see that as a problem, especially when you look at the research behind the fact that students typically perform better when there's somebody who shares their ideals, their culture, and experiences. They do better with that. We're not talking about like qualitative stats. We're talking like quantitative stats. Like their scores are better. They suspended less. So it's an important aspect for me that I have people of the culture in every school that I work at. And I happen to be an educator who has worked in inner city schools for the better part of the last 10 years. So what I'd like to know from you guys, what does it mean to you to be one of the 2% of African American males that make up classroom teachers in our amazing country? Brother Goff, would you like to kick off your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I can kick off. I feel like it's a great challenge, because at the same time, their futures are put in our hands, which, I think is a good thing because, just as far as white counterparts, a lot of times they don't understand the challenges that these young males face, especially growing up in a household without a dad. That's tough. Me growing up, I lived in the household with my dad up until I was 10 years old. But, when my parents split up, I saw the challenge of not having that male figure there every single day. And, when I came up, I could probably think of maybe one black male teacher I had. Most of my teachers were, white females. And, but I never, like in the school aspect, besides having my uncles and other males around, like in school, I think I never really had like that, black male masculine figure, like pushing me to do better. I was always pretty self-driven, but, I feel like that really makes a difference when we're here with them and, we're on them because, we look just like, their dads, their uncles, their big brothers. So I think it's a sense of familiarity to them.
Okay. What do you think, Deputy Black?
I think it's a huge responsibility that we all must bear and we all do share. I say that because in my world, in law enforcement, I always see the worst part of society. And I also see the dynamic that most people end up getting caught up look like me. When I pull the cars over or go into a house on a warrant or just the day-to-day law enforcement activities, we seem to be in the middle of that disproportionately more than anybody else. That being said, schools is a micro-society and it reflects the community that they live in. So they come in from a situation where they don't see black males because they're not in the community. Conversely, when they come to the school, they see less black males trying to teach them something. And I come from a different, my background being a little older than the guy sitting at this table. It wasn't in vogue for a black male to be in education, not primary or secondary education.
Why do you think that is?
I think it was some kind of stigma at some point. When I was in school, it was all white females, almost all the way across the board. Even gym teachers, coaches, there were maybe a few reflected in the athletic realm.
Yes.
Because of basketball, football, baseball, maybe even in art. But as far as the core studies, very few black people even existed, let alone for admin or staff members.
I feel like it's almost like a gender thing too, right? Yeah. I think I can remember seeing old sitcoms where like the man was supposed to go be the businessman, wear the suit, go work the cubicle or work in the office, and many times, I've heard in the past, or at least seen in movies, where like ladies were expected to like be teachers and stuff like that. I think for me, part of the reason why I wanted to be a teacher was I just wanted to be I wanted to feel like I could contribute to the community. I looked around my community. I looked around my own personal situation where I have, I lost both my parents at a very young age, and I lacked that strong black male figure in my life for many years. And the ones when I'm reflective, I remember those being the people who helped me the most. What do you think about that, Deputy Black?
I would say if we didn't get the opportunity to have that strong figure, we wouldn't be directed to where we are now. And I say that because I hear you reflect about a entity. I hear Mr. Goff speak of an entity. I know there were maybe 3 or 4 pivotal individuals, none of which were in school. And they kept me from going to the other side. I often call it, when I'm on the street, the dark side.
Yeah.
The dark side is an allure because it's easier to pass, less travel, and like individuals.
Right.
Those 3 dynamics play a part in being positive. And if you don't have people strong enough to keep you on the other side, the side of the light, you will slide off in the dark. It's too easy.
Brother Collins, what does it mean to you to be a black male in education?
Wow. It is, to chime in like what the others have said, I see it as a awesome responsibility that I embrace and I don't take lightly. And I think many of my students, if you come in my class, I think you have several times, many of my students know, especially the black males, I am on them so tough. But it's not because I don't see them as being successful. I'm on them because I know what it is as a black male, not being educated, not following instructions, not paying attention to the detail, not being organized are critical things that can cost us. The whole prison pipeline thing, it is real. And, and us as educators, we have a responsibility to lead our guys in the right direction. I go home every night and I sleep well because I know that I have the kids' best interest in heart and I'm telling them the right things. That's why I think sometimes, a lot of people in education are not in it for the right reasons. A lot of it, not in it for the money, but I think some of them just it's something just to do it. But to me, this is not something to do. Every day I come in and I have an awesome opportunity to impact the lives of our young students, especially our young black males.
Okay, and so much of what I hear about, like, especially like the idea of like resting easy at night, knowing that you're that added piece that is going to make an impact for African American students' lives is just something that like I can agree with you so much on. To understand like how I feel about being a black male in education, I would almost say I almost look at it as like a religious feeling. In so many ways, and I've told people at CSU would say this, and I know it's going to sound crazy, but like I feel like God sent me everywhere I've gone in education. And I feel like in many ways, my path has been blazed, and the hardships I went through as a younger student without parents is why I'm so driven to make sure that like not only African American students, but all students get a quality education. To be a black male in education is in many ways to feel like a unicorn. We make up 2% of the total population. I can't forget going back to college where my advisor told me, if you want to always have a job, be an African American elementary school teacher, because there's so even fewer of those and they're always looking for it. But why are they looking for it? I think the thing that we know is that like when you have an African American presence, an African American male presence in your building in a school that's predominantly African American, you have that added element of mentorship, and also I would definitely say community respect, because you're going to have parents who feel like they can see your perspective of where you're coming from because you have had experiences similar to them.
Yeah, it's a sense of pride. I was watching Killer Mike's. Actually, it was Trigger Warning, but he was actually on the Breakfast Club, and he was talking about how it was a sense of pride in going to a black high school and having black educators. He felt like that was true black excellence, to be educated by other brilliant black folks, and he talked about how we got away from that and how a lot of times we want to send our kids to like private schools with, white educators because we think, the schools are better. But, he was saying how, he went to, I think it was either Frederick Douglass High School or Booker T. Washington High School in Atlanta. And he said there was a sense of pride because he came up in a community. There was black doctors, lawyers, teachers, barbers, bankers. And, I think a lot of times, in a city like Indianapolis, we don't necessarily get that sense of pride. Atlanta's a different type of city.
Yeah, and I think to kind of chime in when you talk about the pride, I think when you look at, and I know one of my stops in education was I had also opportunity to work at Christmas Addicts High School.
Yeah.
Man, you want to talk about every single day. I was so proud. Like I was standing on the shoulders of giants. It seemed like everybody out in that hallway, as I walked through the hallways and saw all the names of legendary people there, it was like, I cannot let y'all down.
For sure.
You know what I'm saying? That was, and so I can only imagine if I felt that as I was going in the building, I can only imagine how they felt when they actually were students there. And when you do more research about they had more PhD teachers at that school than anywhere else because they couldn't get a job at the universities. You had some unbelievable teachers that was there. So I think that we've kind of lost that because again, I think we've gotten to a point where education doesn't make the money. But it's kind of funny, we don't make the money, but we educate everybody else who's in these fields who make the money.
Yeah.
So that's kind of interesting.
Sure.
And I think one more thing that I'll mention too is, as we talk about black teachers, I did not have my first black teacher until I got into 7th grade. That is, and I think we talk about that can be very tough for especially an inner city kid who's having a lot of issues and things like to not have someone to go through from kindergarten all the way through middle school. And sometimes middle school it's too late. It's too late to try to change things up. But I think my middle school teacher it was a PE teacher. He was my PE teacher and my basketball coach. But I also had a music teacher. And to this day we actually attend the church that I attend. But even to this, I never forget the impression that he left on me because I was kind of squirrely, kidding. But he was like, you don't have to act like that. Grow up. And he gave me that tough love and my dad was, and he was consistently in my life, but this was a man who was telling me, look, man, tuck your shirt in. Yeah. Be proud of yourself. And those things, and the way he was coming to me was like, oh, and I'm gonna do this every day. And so I got to a point where, you know what? I'm just gonna do it so I ain't gotta hear him every day. Because he's already primed and ready to give it to me every day. I'm gonna do what he told me to do the first time, so I don't have to hear it. And to this day, like I said, we have an awesome relationship, but I think that many kids are not fortunate, again, to have African American teachers, particularly males, at the elementary level, which is crucial.
I would say my lens is way different. Like I said, coming from a different decade. In the 70s, 0 black educators until I was in at least, I think I seen the first one in 7th grade or 8th grade. Like you said, and the crazy part is he was an ex-Colt. And the coach had just been in Indianapolis short time at that point. He was a former Colt, and he was an art teacher. And this guy was huge, just like he was on the football field, but he was a gentle giant. And he gave him an opportunity. I believe his calling was to be able to come back and, I could beat you, I could grab you, I could snatch you, but it was the polar opposite. And he reached you through art, through colors, through schemes. I could show you how to draw, I could sketch. And as far as all the little things that I learned at that period, those subtle nuances, how to be a black man and be sensitive, how to be a black man and reach out, how to be comfortable in your skin and still be big, tough, and had that, because I was bigger than all the other kids in general at that point. I can say, I tell a lot of people I haven't grown much since, I've been this size since about 6th grade. So I was way larger than a lot of those kids at the time. But to be uncomfortable in your skin, it just, some people say, well, bulimia, I see skinny people and I saw myself as being so big, I didn't fit in. But as he was able to show me, without really saying it, just by doing it, and we are a really interesting people. We can mimic and copy almost anything if I see enough of it. And to come into this class a couple days a week, doing art class, totally something unrelated to being physical, but being able to share, here, let me see your hand, son. Put this clay in your hand and do this. And, not to be afraid to have another man bump up against you or grab your hand and feel those feelings, and to be able to say, okay, I can project that on the next person or the next group as I go on through life. And it was probably another high school, like I said, it was real sparing. And even up until just now, when I worked on the South Side, there was less than 1% minority staff members and or administrators actively working in the South Side District just recently. And I used to always scratch my head because now I can see it, now I know about it, and nobody's doing anything about it. Why aren't there more people? And at that time, we had Chin people, we had Hispanic people, but none of those people were on the next level. Very few of them were teachers, none of them were administrators, and almost none of them were staff members. So it left me with an empty spot to say, like, who reaches out for this kid? Who reaches out for those people? Even in my capacity as law enforcement, even in there, it was just like, hey, I can either help you, because there's nobody else to reach out for you, or I can let you sink. And I chose at that point to, instead of kicking indoors and driving real fast, to take some time out and help out. And that's why I do my mentoring piece now, to help out and try to give back a little bit.
It's almost like that Antoine Fisher, who will cry for the little boy, And, and also I think another thing that Deputy Black mentioned, and that we probably could talk more about too, he mentioned the arts. And we always look at it in education, when they start cutbacks, it's
First
the
thing
arts.
to go.
Yes,
And and I think he mentioned to me, and I think, like I said, when I was in music, and art, music, those arts, it's expression. Many of us, and like you said, how that can help many of our young males express themselves.
Can I chime in here?
Yes.
Because that is a very interesting thing you just said, and I appreciate you bringing up the arts. Because, how do I put this? We did something interesting this year where we did academies to start the day, right? Part of the reason why I did that is because I knew kids would love the idea of starting with their electives to start the day so they could feel energized about it.
Right.
And I believe that a big part of our success was that act, because it changed the atmosphere. The air tastes different in the mornings. Students' energy is different. They're dressed different. And I think that the idea of cutting the art programs, especially in failing schools that are predominantly African American, can be so detrimental to a school community. And I think the reason why it is so terrible is because you're taking away the one reason many of our African American students are even wanting to go to school.
Exactly.
And now you take that away and you wonder why they want to fight in class. You wonder why they want to bring drugs to school. You wonder why they want to cuss out their teacher. Because you've taken the one cultural outlet that they would have loved about your building and told them to sit down and learn.
And I think one thing, like to touch on that with the arts, art is like therapy. And a lot of times these kids don't get to express themselves. A lot of times it goes into that thing of toxic masculinity, especially as black males. We're taught, hey, don't cry, toughen up. If you fight, I remember my dad, I got in a fight, he told me to go back outside and fight, which, I get that school of thought. But at the same time, like, there's not enough love involved with that to say, hey, you don't have to behave like that. You don't have to do this. You don't have to be like super tough. Here's how you can express yourself. And, a lot of times, in our society, amongst black males, we think expressing ourselves is being soft,
You call it a chatty patty.
Yeah, chatty patty, as Dame would say. But yeah, I think that's a huge part, man. And it's an outlet, like you said, it's a huge part of our culture, especially, I've introduced music production to some of these kids and they love it. I mean, just like, the stuff Coach Love has been doing with the choir. I mean, me and him have been working together and to really getting these kids to open up and express their ideas through music as well.
I would go so far as to take one more step in that direction and say we are hardwired to do certain things.
Oh, yeah, indeed.
I would say Caucasians would do certain things, Hispanics would do certain things. We are hardwired over the last 400 years easily to work hard, to be determined, to be as successful as possible. Construction trades and art are those two things that say to me that I can do things with my hands. I can make stuff. You talked about addicts. They had trades along with education. So even if you didn't academically excel, we could flip the script and you could do cobblery, you could work on shoes,
Right.
you could work on hair. Madam C.J. Walker's right around the corner.
Right, right.
She was putting money straight into the pot. You came out with either a trade or a degree. One or two was coming out, and they weren't going to be, and they weren't just Shade Tree barbers. These were the top-notch barbers, top-notch shoe people, and they had a dozen trades there. This is before the age of Career Center.
Wow.
This is, the school came out of DSEG.
Correct.
The original DSEG,
Right.
Indianapolis split two schools in half and said, hey, this is where you'll go. Back in the 20s, late 29, 30s.
Yep.
They put this school together, like you said, they brought in the top-notch educators that couldn't teach anywhere else because of what they looked like. And then they said, check it out, make it work, because this is where you're going to be at. My dad went to school there. He didn't finish, he didn't go to law or military. But almost everybody's roots come through addicts if their parents are 60 plus. They're 60 plus, they almost all, unless you were living on the far side of town, that's where you went.
Yeah.
But I say that to say, construction trades, building, touching stuff, tools, those things are all stripped out of schools.
Yeah.
And then preceded by art. You don't have any way to express yourself and you're an expressive person. Next thing I do is I'm express it with my hands some way else. I'm going to do drugs. I'm going to make something. You got junior pharmaceutical chemists that can do things that they're not supposed to do because we have very few outlets. And we can get as creative as we can because I've seen somebody else do it. I keep making it happen. If you want to turn this circle around, we got to put some of that stuff back in at the base level and pursue it that way. Otherwise, we're going to be chasing ourselves for the rest of the day.
Yeah.
Let me hop in here real quick. I heard something you said, and I think I'd like for us to maybe switch gears and kind of get to this conversation right here, which is like, running the culture of a school and understanding like the expressions that African-American males or females feel when they're frustrated or upset. I liken it to like, I believe people of the community, wherever the school is and whatever the racial makeup is, if they're from the community, they're going to interpret frustration, anxiety, and negative feelings towards a certain time with your students differently than, or people of the community are going to do it differently than people who aren't of the community. And I say that to say that like, and I think a lot of that happens here at our school where African-American student may not really be super upset, but is expressing themselves in an overt way that could be seen as disrespect. And I think having an understanding of your community and understanding that like, hey, I understand that Johnny's showing me upset, but is he really feeling that, or is he trying to, or she is trying to manipulate me to doing things a certain way, or touching on the level of empathy I'm going to have for a very, very sad or bad situation to lower your expectations of what you should expect from me. So I think a great example of that is that like in my years of education, I've come across students who have had terrible circumstances, but as a black male in education, I was not willing to allow those excuses to prevent them from matriculating through their education experience because I knew how important this time was. Whereas a lot of different times I've seen the other interaction from different people from outside of a particular culture who are more likely to lower expectations based on the circumstances of the student
Yeah, and
that they are holding accountable. What do you think about that?
I think a lot of times, and I'll just say like, in particular, you have the white female counterpart teachers, they are intimidated. A lot of times when there's discipline problems in the classroom, they immediately, it's it's fight or flight, but they're flighting and sending these kids up out of here. And I think that is a huge part of what's affecting the education because, I mean, I understand sometimes there's a need for suspension, but like if you're, excessively getting these students in trouble, sending them wherever, they're not learning anything. And, I think as black males, we know how to deal with that better. They might raise their voice, but if we say, hey, man, listen, sit down, they'll understand because they know, their uncles or their dads or whoever might talk to them like that. But a lot of times they feel as though they can assert a certain amount of dominance over, especially some of these female teachers. I could be wrong, but that's just how I see it.
I don't think you're wrong. I believe, in my mind, if you come into a situation and you're nervous already, if you're scared already, you're going to project scared, nervous, fear.
Indeed. Yeah.
And if you have a kid that's been brought up with he's bringing all kind of baggage to the game anyway. Mom and dad might not be together. Boom. Dad, he used to holler, scream at mom, borderline domestic. Boom. I hear this from the other side of the door because I don't want to, I shelter myself from the situation. Boom. So here I come to school. They got a lady just telling me or a man just telling me, do this, do that. And I'm listening to a certain rhythm in my head because I'm sensitive to rhythm. I'm sensitive to sound. I'm sensitive to inflection. I hear that rhythm, and I teach people to listen to rhythm, to listen to the context of the words, to listen to the brevity as it's spoken. What kind of inflection are you putting on the words when you spit them out there? Is it crisp on the front end? Do you put it out there and let it sit? There are you can say 5 different ways and mean 5 different things. And we put being black on top of that, I might be able to stretch it to 6 or 7.
Yeah, true.
But I don't know if any school or institution teaches that in a book to a teacher.
Correct.
And you send this teacher out here, a rookie from wherever, you never taught that, and you snap that kid, and he seems that he's embarrassed because you should have took the kid, put him aside, said it slower, said it quieter, and more deliberate. But instead, you call him out. In his mind, he's offended, and he's going to snap back. But is he mad to the point he loses his mind? Probably not. I just want to let you know where I'm coming from right now because you just hurt my feelings.
Indeed.
And I don't really know how to do it because my dad's not around. I didn't see how to deliver that. I just know this is how my mom snaps back when somebody snaps at her.
Yeah, and I think a large part, like we were saying earlier, to have black male educators in elementary school, because then they kind of get used to that male authority.
Yes.
A lot of times we get to middle school, high school, they're already out in the streets, they made their choice. So it's like, if I'm a young black male and I live with my mother and my aunts, and then here comes this male black educator yelling at me and telling me what to do, automatically, and knowing how we are, we gonna snap back and assert that, try to reinsert that dominance. And a lot of times, from that young age, they weren't taught how to listen to a black male because, like we said, the lack of fathers, lack of those male figures.
I think another thing that sticks in my mind is what you're talking about. I think a lot of times, piss poor preparation promotes piss poor performance.
6 Ps.
Yeah. So I also think too, in my class and how I try to, with my kids, there's rules to the game. There's rules to the game, and once I get you to understand the rules to the game and comply, then we can start really getting to know you, building relationships. But you got to understand, no matter where you are in this society, there are rules to everywhere you go. And you have to follow those rules and have to understand those rules where you are, So I think that's one of the approaches that I think many teachers just go in a room and I'm going to build relationships. Okay, but you have rules in order that has to be taking place first. If that's not taking place first, the relationship is going to be out the window. And I think so many times, again, we get people I'm fortunate enough that many of these kids, I wasn't born with a silver spoon in my mouth. So I do understand. But I also understand that everything's not going to be given to you either.
Right.
And you only can pat yourself and feel sorry for yourself only but so long. Because at the end of the day, you still got to wake up and produce.
Exactly.
At the end of the day, you can say, man, I didn't have nothing to eat. Get that. Still got to take this test. still got to graduate, still got to stay out of trouble. You know, so the rules doesn't
Still
change. It's based
expectation.
on your situation.
Yeah. They're missing the masculine aspect. You know, a lot of times, you know, when you talk about masculine and feminine, you know, I think of it as in an energy format. A lot of times, feminine energy is very, and, you know, I don't want to say this as an absolute, but feminine energy
Yes.
can be a little stagnant. It's not forward moving. But the masculine energy is very forthright. It's very
Aggressive.
Yeah, aggressive, very aggressive, and it shows you how to go after it.
Especially being raw.
And if you're around women all the time, and another thing, you don't have any black male educators, you're not getting that at school. Nobody's telling you, hey man, stop crying, complaining, and whining. You need to go after, stop making excuses, stop playing victim, and that's where that dominant masculine energy comes in.
I agree. Yeah.
I like the idea of making sure that the expectations are always where they need to be in a classroom, and I think that like the importance of black men and black women within our community schools showing excellence is paramount. I think it can actually, as important as it is to have amazing black educators in a school, or for that matter, and I want to make sure I say this, amazing educators of the community in a school, so that it doesn't matter the racial makeup. I think one of the most important aspects of that is making sure that you're tight and you exude excellence.
Yep.
What do I mean by that? If we follow the statistics the way that they already are out there, which is, I'm going to repeat this again, 2% of all teachers in this country, pre-K through 12, are African American males. And the research also shows that those same African American males, students perform better with them, with the subgroup that they represent as black males, that we need to continue to have them, but we can't have no janky stuff up in our schools. Can I say it that straight up?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what is that? So what do I mean by that? The same way Brother Collins just said, I want my students, my African American students, know that I'm going to be on them. I think from an administrative perspective, I feel similarly. And the reason why I feel that way is that I have seen when I have gone out on a limb and hired an African American male or African American female teacher so that I could have more people of the community, and they don't live up to the expectations of what a teacher or staff member should be, that they can actually be more detrimental to the culture of a school, the overall education environment, than just the fact that if they weren't there at all. What do you guys think about that?
That's huge, and you know, a lot of times, and you know, I'll get back to that point. I think just the detrimental part is also showing them how to treat one another, and also how to treat their female counterparts. That's one thing I'll harp on. One thing that really aggravates me is I don't like to see the disrespect of women, especially by, you know, African American male to African American woman. Like that bothers me, and you know, whenever I see it, I always address it. And I feel like a lot of these guys don't know how to talk to women. That's a huge problem. I mean, I can go so deep as to where like we can see relationships failing off of this. You know, they don't know how to cohabitate because they don't know how to have just general respect. You know, just in the way they talk. You know, their mannerisms. You know, the way they dress, the way they speak around them. But yeah, I feel like that's a huge detriment.
I think also too is another detriment is when you don't understand the goals and objectives of going on. And I'll give you an example. When I first came here, I think the first time I came on a visit,
Okay.
I look at as I'm walking in the door, I see "Speak Like a Scholar." Wow. That's already immediately telling me what's going on here. Like, man, I'm this is what I miss. But then I get here, and I think it might have been a staff meeting, or it might have been on announcements. I hear, work hard, be great, excellent each and every day, and failure's not an option. Whoa. I'm hearing that every day, and then I'm seeing it and I'm reading it. And I'm part of this. Like, whoa, I know what this expectation is. Oh, and the thing about it already aligns up with me, so it's an easy transition. Right. Oh, this is what it is. Okay, I'm easy. So I think a lot of times when you look at educators getting situations, it may not even, it may not even be the right fit for them. But they're taking it because I need a job. I need something to do. And so therefore you getting that in the classroom. Then you get it, then like I said, then it spills over in the building. They're out in the hallway. Even if you're a janitor, be the best janitor. I think Martin Luther King probably said something about whatever you're gonna be a street sweeper. But I think so many people, they take positions that don't line up with their own personal goals and goal set. So they get a job that don't line up, and they're not successful at it. So I think it's key to, and again, when you look at many kids, and I know in education, and like I'm sure you probably said this to some parents, some students, this may not be the school for you. Because they get in and they think, okay, well, I'm going to do what I want to do. Well, if what you want to do don't line up with what the expectations are in the school, it's not going to be the school for you. Right. There's other schools that will allow you to do whatever you want, but we're not going to allow you to cuss in here. We're not going to allow you to be out of dress code. We're not going to allow you to have your pants. I mean, those are expectations that every single day we are going to enforce. You're going to speak like a scholar. You're not going to speak like an idiot. Yeah. That is, and again, if you can't get down with that, this is probably not the place for you, and it's okay.
It's okay.
And I think that's where we struggle. Where I see, like I said, in education, I've been in education long enough to see that most teachers that are not successful and struggle is because their own personal goals never really lined up with the goals of the school and the vision, or they bump head with their administrators because it never really lined up.
And I think fit is like such an important element of like what it means to be an educator within a building. I think I want to probably close with like just talking about like the importance, like I said, I think earlier, like Black excellence. I think we have to find a way to try to make sure we're always pushing ourselves to be our best selves for our students in the building. Yep. And I think the responsibility is where it is because, we've beat this to death today, but like, I know I'm in education to be the male figure that I lacked growing up. And though I made it okay, I know I am not the norm. I know that I am just one person who made it out of Newport News, Virginia, without their parents, and was able to be successful enough to be out here for the podcast and everything. So every day I wake up, I put on my shoes, I put on my slacks, and I think about what can I do to be the best person I can possibly be for our African-American students in our school. Yeah. And what I want from each of you, of course, because, you guys all pretty much work for me and everything, and is that like, I want us to all be that, and I almost want to call this like, this is the first episode, but like a call to arms, where it's like, we are all part of a movement to help our community. We are 60 years removed from the civil rights movement. We are 150 years, give or take,
slavery. Yep.
From slavery. I am a 36, soon to be 37-year-old man, and I understand during Black History Month that we may be in the most important time in the history of us in this country. And we are spearheading a movement to change the lives of the people of our community on the far east side of Chicago. But what I would hope most for anyone who takes a listen or a watch to this video, this podcast today, is that wherever you are, finding a way to be the absolute best educator you can be for the communities that you have. Because as someone told me the other day, Mr. Knight, I believe that you are changing a community, that this is no longer about your school. And I do not take that responsibility lightly. And I hope that as we continue as brothers to have discussions like this, that everyone at this table will continue to want to exude that hashtag Black excellence, because if not us, who? If not now, when? And we need to be the best selves we can be so that we can take care of these babies. Anybody want to chime in around that?
I'd like to just throw out a little bit just for the fact that, like I said in closing, for my part, I don't even look at it. I did it first. I won't tell you a lie. I did it first, look at this as a job. Mm-hmm. But now I don't look at it as a job so much as I stand with you on the line of reconnecting with the students in the school, whether black, white, purple, green, but primarily the black males that need somebody to see every day like I said, I used to laugh and joke with the staff in the office and say, hey, how many times do you ever see me not here? Then I flip it to the kids. When's the last time you seen, especially a kid that hadn't been around for a while? I was here when you left. I was here while you were gone. And I'm still here. I'm not mad at you. But if you want to be better, if you want to be great, I need you to see what I'm doing. Because I'm not going to tell you something to do that I wouldn't do. And I'm right here waiting for you every day.
That's dope. Anything else you guys want to chime in with to close this out, son?
I think, it goes back to, you said the Black excellence. That is something that always been in me. And I think I go back to your stuff if you're going to be serious about making change wherever you are, things have to line up. Because you're not going to you're not going to give your all. You're not going to be full of enthusiasm, full of excitement if you're not in places where you line up.
Brother Goff, anything else you want to say to close us out?
I'll just say part of Black excellence is pushing the bar on thought and the way we think, and moving forward, just understanding new trains of thought, new schools of thought, and not just sticking to the norm of what society has placed on us as Black males.
I think that's such a huge aspect of what we can do within our community. But I think for the most part, I think we hit the nail on the head today.
Sure.
Brother Collins, Brother Black, Brother Goff, and our students who are directing us today. We definitely want to thank everybody for listening to our podcast today. I think we started off saying it was four Black educators. I don't know if we're going to keep that, but that's what we'll be for right now. Make sure you check us out and everything. I don't know if these guys are on social media, but at Lloyd the Outlier, at LLOYDTHEOUTLIER on Twitter, Instagram, and I'm also on Facebook. And anyone who's ever interested in coming to Thomas Carr Howe Community High School and seeing the amazing work that's being done on the far east side of Chicago, we appreciate it. I definitely love these four gentlemen, and I'm so excited about the journey we've already been on. But this podcast journey, well, I'm excited about that too. So you'll see us again next week, and peace.
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 Like, far.